Welcome to Odyssey and one of our conversational events as usual. Today we're going to be talking about psychic and mediumship and intuition, a little bit about empath, and it's just, could you be that? Could you be psychic? Could you be mediumship? We're going to explore it. But it's going to be with Tony and I, otherwise known as Anthony from Odyssey, the platform, who's one of the mediums that we have there, part of our team. Would you like to say hello, Tony? Someone can sort of see
Hello,
you.
everybody. I'm Anthony Ball, but I prefer to be called Tony. I work at Odyssey. I'm a psychic medium, and then I trained together, which was really good fun. So I've known Anne for quite a while, yeah. And I love Odyssey. It's really nice to see you all. It's a lovely platform, lovely energy, and you all look marvelous. And I can see a few psychics there as well. So hello.
So Tony and I are sitting in front of an audience right now. So yeah, we're picking up on your energies as well. So those who are joining us today, we'll sort of tune in a little bit to sort of see, what's going on as well. We won't promise a reading, we're not doing that, but we're going to have a little look what's going on as well. So that'd be interesting, intriguing. So the main reason for this was that a lot of people ask us about, are they intuitive? And if there's a difference between psychic and being a medium. And that was something I wanted to cover so that those of you who were unsure, we can cover it a little bit. So I'd always sort of say, and we're going to look at our stories as well, so it might make sense to other people as well, but it's very much about, being that empathic, being that individual that really connects to people's energy, feeling them, feeling other people's energy, and going through your life experiences, the traumas, the tragedies, and everything really opens up that heart center. And I think for everyone that's listening to this, if you're drawn to this conversation, you're most likely going to be an empath, that you're sort of really tuning to others around you and aware of how they may be feeling. Now with the I know with me, with being the empath many years ago, I remember even having a lady that was across the road and she couldn't breathe because I got a lung condition, and I could feel that in my chest, that her breathing. So that really affected me too. Now with the intuitive side, we're going to have a little look at that. The reason I bring that in, thank you, this is my guidance. The reason I'm talking about intuitive is some of you, there is a crossover about being intuitive and psychic. There is this crossover that you find.
Could I just say,
Yeah.
all media, do you know the difference between psychics and mediums? A psychic person is someone who will look at your energy and what's going on in your life and what's going on around you. And a medium is someone who connects with people who are past. All mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are medium. So you could be a psychic and say, "Oh, I can't connect with people from the other side." That's fine. Being a psychic is marvelous, but all mediums are psychic. It's just, it's just a little thing. So if you're a psychic, that's a marvelous thing to be. If you're a medium, that's a marvelous thing to do. You're not necessarily both, but I can see there's quite a few of you that are. So it's really odd when you can do this, you can spot it on somebody else a mile off.
Yeah, you can sort of feel into their energy, can't you?
Yeah.
You can sort
You
of
you
get
can
that
see the
feeling.
energy around them, and you can feel the glow around them. And so, I mean, because this kind of way of working is something. This is how we trained during the pandemic, so we're quite used to working on Zoom like this.
So yeah, so if we look at that as in like being an intuitive, the intuitive is very much about that natural animal instinctive, that part of you that you'll have the gut feelings, you'll have the butterfly feelings to go off and do something, to contact somebody. Those that are intuitive, really internal, that's being the intuitive. And it's very similar to psychic to some degree, psychic being quite external in the sense of, like, as what Tony was sort of saying, sort of seeing, feeling that energy around others. But the intuitive part of you is really feeling, as in that you come in with that when you're born, literally. And that's a sort of protection thing, to follow your gut feelings, to have your soul navigate you. So with that intuitive side of you is that navigation of your soul and learning to use it within the psychic side of helping you to look externally. So for instance, some of you might have that feeling that you might have to want to contact somebody. You have a very strong feeling about that. Or some of you might have a feeling that someone's going to phone you or reach out to you. That again is working intuitive and psychically. They're very intertwined. Some of you will get a feeling that if you're say walking down a dark alley or down a road and get a very strong feeling maybe not to go down there, that's possibly your intuition that's internal within inside of you. And some of you I know who may not know about guides or who may know about guides, but guides can come in to help you. But the intuitive side is really working with the internal part of your soul and your higher self. And the psychic stuff is when you really come in and you're working with other people's energy to really work that out. Okay, thank you. And then the mediumship, as Tony sort of said, it is when you're working with loved ones, souls, spirit, whatever you want to call that area of side of things, that they will come in. So I'm gonna ask Tony some questions actually, so that then we'll have open sort of Q&A so that you guys can ask questions to sort of see what feels right for you, because that's really, really important. So Tony, if we look back at the early stages, we were talking about childhood earlier before we began, and for you, when did you feel, because I know a lot at the moment on the planet Earth, there's a lot of people having this spiritual awakening. It's becoming quite sensitive for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people, you know, are looking at Odyssey or looking at other places for those sort of courses, because that's going to help guide them and help them to understand themselves better. So with yourself, when did you start feeling that there was something that you knew there was, like, not, I wouldn't say abnormal or not normal, I hate using that term. When did you know what was going on?
It's odd. I mean, you know, I did grow up in a house that was quite busy with spirituality. Which was strange, and I always felt very different. I always felt like I was kind of a bit odd, and I didn't fit in. And I didn't know what to do with that. So for me, what I did with that is all of that kind of spiritual and strange energy went into creative work. So I did a lot of artwork, I did a lot of drawing, I did a lot of writing. I got really into music, I got into singing. So I kind of, for me, the safe space for that kind of oddness was creativity. So then I could feel like I wasn't strange, I was just creative. So that's kind of where it became for me. My sister was just slightly different in that she would talk to spirit as a child, and she was sent to a psychiatrist, which she got a lot of damage around. So she now, although I think she's a very gifted psychic medium, she won't do it. Yeah. So I put mine in a very safe space. So I always knew I was odd, and I always knew there was I knew too much, or I would feel too much, or I would sense too much. So rather than have that freak me out, I put it into creative stuff. So it became an idea, an image, a poem, a piece of writing. So that's kind of where it went for me to keep me safe. That's what happened.
We were saying a little bit earlier before we started that because for me, again, a similar story to your sister. You know, I had to see a psychiatrist to see that, because everyone said I was crazy, because I would see something you said earlier, that I saw neighbours who were about to pass over. So I had that feeling before they were going to die, that I talked to my mum about, and she go, "You can't go around saying that." So I saw that. Or, you know, I was listening to animals and talking back to animals telepathically, and I thought it was quite normal for me. And, you know, with me, I was creative and artistic, and that helped. But yeah, and there was something we said earlier about what happens, like, if we don't discharge it correctly, the energy, when we were younger, because I said to you that glasses used to break for me, or light bulbs used to break, and you had something similar, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, because I was quite lucky in that I managed to put all of my stuff into creative place, and I went to art college, so I was very, very creative, and that was very safe for me. And then later on in life, when I was less creative, I had a lot of other stuff happening around me. So I would blow up light bulbs. I blew up a television. Electrical stuff would go mad around me. I felt like I was being followed. So there's lots, because I wasn't as creative, and also when I decided to write plays. So I started writing plays. But when I was writing plays, I would bring through spirit without realizing it. So it became very, very difficult for me to manage. I was starting to get burnout because of it. So that's the reason, really, I started to train as a psychic medium. For me, it was to turn it off and on.
Right. Okay.
I never knew how to turn it off and on. So I was burning out. I wasn't sleeping. I was exhausted. So I went in to learn how to ground, protect myself, and how to turn off my spirituality. Because for me, it comes from exactly the same place as my creativity. Because I've made it my safe place for so many years, I had no boundaries between the two. So
Right.
I could not work effectively. I couldn't live effectively as a creative person because I was burning myself out
And
and
I think
blowing up. And my light bulb bill was enormous.
and I think that's what we were saying earlier. We were talking about when you're going to start looking at maybe putting some workshops on about helping people to switch on, switch off, and
Yeah.
looking at that protection mode in them, and cleansing, and clearing out their energy and stuff. I think which is really important because I've been mentioning this recently that some of us, when we meet individuals, we can feel absolutely drained and exhausted after meeting some people, because if you're very intuitive and there's those psychic elements. I mean, I've been saying this and banding on for some time that you're in this physical vessel that you see. Your soul is in this physical vessel, and there's a blueprint of energy, like a fingerprint around you. So, as a psychic medium in the early days, picking up the information, and I'm sure a lot of you that are sitting in the audience, we can feel that too, that as a psychic, you tend to pick up the energy and what's going on in the other person, that there's, I'm either debris of what's going on in their life. If they've had a loved one that's passed over, you can feel the debris of that, or they've lost their job. And the famous story I always keep saying is, having that client that came to me and she said, I'm so fed up. You're the sixth psychic that I've seen. And I said, well, what's the problem? She said, you're telling me exactly the same information as what I heard before. And I went, well, hello, your fingerprint of energy around you is carrying it around with you. That is your baggage, your energy baggage. So it's important actually to learn about how to cleanse your energy, to clear your energy, to ground yourself. And this is something that Tony's going to be looking at, putting on some workshops and stuff so people can help themselves, so they don't feel
And
drained.
also to turn yourself off and on to protect yourself. And I was naturally very well protected because I'd done it all my life. But still, people would break through. I remember walking past somebody once, and their energy slapped my brain. And I went it was just the most awful feeling. And I'm really, really well protected. So I had to kind of put myself together after that. And also, I cannot go Christmas shopping. I cannot go into a department store at Christmas because I get shaken around like a rag doll, and I'm really, really well protected. I went to a department store in the UK a couple of years ago, and I had to go and stand in the middle of the road because the energy from it was so frightening. So, and I am grounded and protected. So, you may find yourself as an empath or as a psychic shaken about, and you don't know why, or thinking, why am I feeling like this? And if you go in and check, it might not even be yours.
Yeah, that's important, because I totally understand. I didn't realize this actually. I went into an indoor shopping center, very, very busy, and I was standing and I was like, oh, I could hear so much sound. It was all buzzing around me. My ears were actually felt like they were going to bleed my eardrums. Very uncomfortable. And it was only literally when I started learning about this that I was actually picking up on everybody else's energy. And also the energy of all the electricity was buzzing through me. I found it really difficult. And this is the thing, like you were saying, sometimes, as as I said a little while ago, if you're intuitive and psychic, you most likely you're open to picking up everybody's energy. And there's something I've done in my retreats and something I teach in my workshops, that when you go to sit down on public transport, just brush it off. Be aware of the energy that you're brushing away. Sometimes they might look a bit funny, be like as if you're dusting, sort of getting rid of wherever the energy residue, because that's what people can do if they're having a bit of a heavy, crappy day. If they're sitting on public transport, they're sort of dump loading their energy, which they don't mean to. Not all of it's there, but it's like a residue that leaves them. You go sit in that seat and you can feel, well, I was in such a good mood before I sat in that chair. But sometimes being aware of your energy as well. We did a mindfulness the other day, the conversation about being mindful of your own energy, so that you can tell the difference when it's not your energy and you switched over. It could be somebody else's energy that you brought in. And that's where the protection, the golden egg that I've used before, that will come into play. Tony, do you remember when about the mediumship side of things? Do you remember sort of when that started coming in and you just started thinking this is a bit different here?
I knew I was being followed, which was strange. And I kept looking and there was nothing there. So I knew there was something going on. And a friend of mine who trained Anne and I invited me to his class, psychic medium class, to come in as a guest. And I'd already done a kind of a workshop that was much more about past life stuff and timelines, which I knew I could do, and I knew I could do because I had a really good imagination. So for me, it was like bringing in a story, but it was a story from a past life. So I knew I could do that, but I didn't think I was a medium. And I went into the class and I sat with somebody, and Gary, who was a tutor, said to me, "Oh, you give her a reading." I had no idea what I was doing. I said, "Oh, this woman's coming through. She's doing this, 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 and this. She's showing me this, and this." And the woman said, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." And I was like, it freaked me out. It really freaked me out. And what it did, which was really, really strange, after the class, I went to the gym and I was spinning. I was really spinning. And what came up into my head, which shocked me, was I'm not the freaky one. It's my sister. I'm normal. It's my sister who's the freaky one. Now, I've never thought that in the whole of my life. That was from my parents.
Yeah.
But what it made me realize is I had a lot of prejudice around being a medium because of what had happened to my sister.
Yeah.
So it freaked me out. It took me a couple of weeks before I could actually process it. And I went back to the class and ended up joining the class. But my initial reaction was I was horrified. And I always thought I was a really open, really kind of accepting, really creative person who believed it anyway. But when it happened to me, I freaked.
Yeah.
So it can knock you in a very funny way. I don't know how I did it. I just sat there and what we often say when you're a medium is being a good medium is someone who's good at getting out of the way. So what comes through is not me, it's coming through me. Now, because I did that with artwork and I did that with writing and I did that with my creative side, I could just step out and it came through like a story, which is why a lot of creative people are often make very good mediums because they're used to stepping out of the way. But it scared me. I was like, oh, I shouldn't know this. I shouldn't know this. It really freaked me out. And it took me a while. It took me about 6 or 7 years before I would tell people I was a medium.
Yeah, yeah, because there is a bit of a stigma attached to it, and I know myself. I think this is the thing. What's happening, as I said a little bit earlier, when people are waking up to thinking, oh, when I mean by waking up, something's happened in their life. Either they've lost a loved one, or there's some trauma. Trying to get two words at the same time here. That's going on, and you're just thinking that there must be more to life than what I see. There must be something else that's going on. How do I know this information about these people? Why do people approach me in public transport or walking down the road and they tell me all their information? I haven't even asked them for their information or offloading all their information because they're actually sensing something within you. And it's like normally that you have to wake up to the fact that actually you have some sort of gift here. So they're actually picking up on you. And as I said, the stigma attached to, knowing some of the information. So the idea of Odyssey is like having the different modalities and the layers of it, and then it's about learning what works for you. So it might be, looking at the psychic stuff, looking at the mediumship stuff. Am I psychic? Am I intuitive? Am I a medium? Looking at either numerology or human design or colorology, whatever it is, by looking at those layers of the different modalities and looking at what resonates for you, what feels right for you. Because back in the day, it was being seen as abnormal, sort of to some degree. I mean, lots of mediums, as when I was a kid being brought up, oh, if they've got a red light by the window, if they wasn't prostitutes, sorry, there might be a medium. And so it's like, oh, okay. But being either one of those isn't good, is it, Mum? No, it's not. It's like, oh,
it's weird and it is scary. And when you growing up as a strange child, I didn't want to be strange like that. I went into disguise. I tried to hide it. I tried to make myself invisible growing up because I didn't want people to see how odd I was. And it was lonely. So it's really, really difficult going back and saying, okay, I'm accepting the fact that I'm different. It's a very difficult journey. And it's part of your development as a psychic, as a medium, is realizing that you may be a little strange and that's okay. Because in a forum like this, when you meet a lot of other people, there are more of us around than you realize.
yeah.
And what's lovely when you do these kind of classes is you meet people that you become friends with because you don't have to hide anything from them.
Yeah, you could be your true self. That's the thing.
Feelings or your secret. So
Yeah.
Being a medium or a psychic is very, very odd and very, very lonely. But when you find other people who are the same, it's amazing.
I think you're right. For me, I think when I started doing this, it was a little bit scary because I remember the first time I saw spirit and they were up against my face. And I was like, oh, I'm a bit scared. Can you please move away? I didn't know I could ask them to please move away, but I was a bit scared. Now, no, they're like my best buddies. And when I'm sitting channeling for a client, they come in, they have a conversation, and the personality comes in, and I'm like the telephone. So it's brilliant. I get out my own way and I'm channeled, which is lovely. But you're right. Some people who are, opening up to this now, becoming more aware of it. And because of where we are on the planet at this particular time, there is a lot of people that are waking up to this that no, they're not odd, but they're different. And back in the day, we would see them odd or strange, but I think now it's becoming more acceptable that people can sort of say, hey, I'm working with my intuition. I could possibly be psychic or I could be a medium, depending. And it's okay to be that. And places like, as you say, like Odyssey and other places where you meet like-minded souls, you can start feeling as if it's quite normal and it's okay to say this and it's okay to connect. Like yourself and I, Tony, we met a long time ago, and
Yeah.
we were students and we introduced to each other, and now we're consultants and stuff. But when I knew that, oh my God. And then it's funny because we ended up in our conversation, we ended up finding that we didn't live very far away from each other back
We
in
did
the
go
day.
very far away from each other. We were from a similar part of London, and I knew where she grew up, and so it's so you become like family,
Yeah.
which is really, really nice because you finally got someone who you can talk to about everything, rather than keeping that one part of yourself that's a little bit strange, a little bit odd, or that people might scoff at. It's really nice to finally sit in your own energy and in your own power and not feel judged. It's amazing.
I think
um
I agree with you because it's like with the school thing, what we were saying, when you feel odd, a lot of times when you're going through your childhood, you've only got your family members around you, and then you've got school, and if you don't fit in with those kids, I never fitted in with those kids. I was playing with worms or talking to snails or whatever it is. I know it sounds a little bit odd, and talking to spirit. And for me, that was my reality. And if you don't fit in with your family either, and a lot of people, your soul pod families that you come into, sometimes you're not going to feel that you fit in with them. So, the more that you discover
I
about
made
yourself.
I made myself invisible. I tried to make myself as absolutely non threatening and non so that people just wouldn't look at me, because I thought they would know I was different.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I
that's
tried to kind of really tried to hide myself. So it's yeah. And then I grew and I became 6'2", and it's like, well, I became quite hard to hide. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do?
and he is 6 foot tall. He's a giant. I love him. I love when we meet up and give him a great big
Oh my God,
cuddle.
I can't hide.
And you're such a sensitive soul, and you feel so much like a more to a brother to me when we sort of meet each other. Like, oh, when I
Yeah.
first met Tony, it was funny. And anybody that when you're opening up and you're working your psychic abilities or and mediumship, whatever it is, as you might not be medium, but working the psychic side. When you actually come across somebody that's very similar to yourself, it's like. I'm going to explain it this way. It's like when you like this morning, I was walking along the river and there was a couple of dogs, and the same breed of dog went up to the same breed as itself. So say two whippets went up to each other and they waggled their tail and they did this little dance, and it was like they were okay. They recognized themselves like a mirror, and they don't have to say anything. And then that whippet moved along and met a retriever, and it was like, oh no, don't come near me. And it's like when I met Tony or anybody else that I meet that's very psychic or a medium or whatever, very in tune to themselves, it's like you feel like you're at home with them, like they're a real soul connection because they're similar. They vibrate on a similar frequency to you. And they, might be at the early stages. They're not quite getting it yet, or they're not too sure. But it's this like you're coming home to something. That's how I felt.
But when you do sittings for people and they come in and you know someone's a psychic, you're like, oh, okay, hello, your family, straight away. And even if they don't know it, you're like, no, you are. You really, really are. So, and you can see it in other people. You will see. It's like when my friend who ended up being my tutor, we were friends before. He started training, and I was one of the first persons he told, because he knew I would be okay with it.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though I hadn't developed myself at that point, he knew. So there are people you will know. You will sit down with like, oh, that's okay. I feel safe.
Yes, yes. And sometimes without even saying a word, you can just feel it in their energy and around you and stuff.
And that's also part of you developing as a psychic, because you've been doing it all your life. You've been reading people's energies all your lives, and you've known which people you could become friends with and which people you'd want to stay with, and which energies you feel fine with, which energies you find difficult. So you've kind of been doing that intuitively all your life. And when you start to develop that, it's almost like you're developing that into a psychic.
And the thing is, and the thing is, which is most important, it's about the soul journey that you're on right now. It's knowing yourself, it's getting to understand yourself. And there is a few things that you can look at so that you get a better understanding of who you are. Yeah, of course, we're going to be running some programs and courses and stuff like that, of course. But if you have in your childhood or in your adult life, you started to become aware that you feel a little bit odd, maybe, or a little bit different from other people, maybe don't feel like you fit in. And I always say I don't want to fit in, to be honest. But if you're feeling a little bit that, you can tell if a friend's going to call you, get that feeling, or you get that feeling to reach out to another friend because you're picking up on something from them. If you're working with clients and you get a strong feeling about these individuals, if there might be an email that's dropped in and you look at your emails and then suddenly, yes, that email's there, you already had that feeling. You could be psychic, you could be picking up, you could be feeling it.
It's very, very difficult to lie to a psychic.
Yeah.
Someone will tell you something and you can go, yeah, yeah, okay. And you know in your head that that's a complete lie. And you're like, actually, what you really mean is this. But sometimes you say that and they're like, oh,
I know,
how did you know that? And you're like, oh, just a guess.
I have to. The reason I'm laughing is because, oh, maybe I shouldn't share this, but I don't know. Sometimes I have to. Literally, by being in a relationship or partnership, and then feeling that there's something going on for them, and they weren't telling me the truth, and then in the middle of the night being woken up by something that they'd done, and they're like, oh, was not a dream, but picking up straight away that this individual what they've done. So beware, in a way. It's brilliant to know who you are and discover that who you are, but it's right what Tony says, no one
But
can lie to you.
some people might say, oh, you're a difficult.
Yeah. Yes.
Because you don't buy their BS. Or why are you
Yes.
being so difficult? Well, why are you not telling me the truth? I am telling you the truth. No, you're not. Oh,
Yeah.
how dare you? How dare you? I'm offended. Off they go. Because so it's it's really, these are all parts of you developing as
Yeah.
a psychic.
Yeah.
So if people describe you as difficult, you're probably a psychic.
Yeah. And if they don't like what's I totally agree with you. If you're starting to shift friendship groups because of the work that you're starting to look at and you're inquisitive, well, you're not fitting into that group anymore because you are changing. It's funny. There's something, again, I'm sure they won't mind. My children, whenever they used to bring someone home, like a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, and I used to stand there and they would say, Mum, can this person stay over? And I'd scan their energy and I'm like, no, because I know what that person's up to. I'm sorry. Or they would literally bring someone home, and within 2 seconds, I'll say, yeah, you're okay. I like you. And this actually has happened a number of times with my children. I could just see straight away. I knew if I liked them or not, because you can see through the core of the inners, the soul journey, and everything. I love that. Thank you, Tony.
It's like, there were times in my development before I knew I was a psychic, when I would say things that were really outrageous that I had no idea why I'd said them, but it was exactly what that person was feeling.
Yes.
I would say stuff and think, where on earth did that come from? And then the person would say, how did you know?
Yeah.
And then we'd start a conversation around it, and it would be quite healing for them. But I had no idea where this stuff was coming from.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes if you blurt things out and think, what?
Where did that come from?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's often another sign that you're empathic or psychic, or so these are all kind of signs. Also for me, as I was saying before, when I was really getting towards having to train, I was being followed. There was something behind me over my left side all the time, and I kept looking around, and I knew there was something. I've never felt like I was alone. So I was like, what is this? And that is another reason that kind of prompted me to. So I spoke to my friend who was a psychic tutor, and he said, well, it's one of your guides. So I'm like, okay, to kind of if this person is making me so aware of them that I can feel them following me, maybe I should think about going and doing some training. So as you progress, you blow up light bulbs, you say, you blurt stuff out, when people are lying, then you start getting followed by one of your guys, then it's time to do something about it.
Do you
But it might
think?
not happen for you like that. It happens to everybody in their own unique way.
Yeah.
But these signs, some of these may have happened to you, some of them may not have happened to you. But these are all signs that maybe this is something you want to investigate. Because as I said to Anne earlier, I always say to people, if you don't use it, it
Yeah.
uses you.
Yeah, energy wise, totally. I totally agree with you. It's funny, a number of years ago when I worked at the hospital, I was training at the college, just in the sense of I was a student, and then suddenly I was approached to sort of become a probation and a consultant, and that wasn't something I ever had in my radar to do professionally as a medium. And I remember I was at the hospital, and oh my God, I was at the hospital and I was working every computer I was working on. I don't even know how this is possible, but the text on the computer on the screen turned upside down, and I was like, I couldn't understand what was going on. So I remember I got the IT unit down. He went, this is because I called him up to come down and fix the computer at the reception, and he was like, that's impossible. And he came down, he goes, what have you done? I went, I haven't done anything, because my energy was shifting so high, and every computer screen I walked around the hospital, it changed. And even today they're like, they don't know what happened, but that was a real sign to say, you got to stop doing that. And body, as in ailments and health issues what come up, sometimes your guides are sort of saying, come on, you need to move on and change that job.